Every building you admire started as an idea, often with a sketch on paper. Welcome to the Rhino Studio series, and let's get into studio mode. In the first episode, we'll look at why drawing standards matter, bring a hand sketch from paper into Rhino, and turn it into a clean, scaled drawing that's ready to develop. Before we touch a command, let's talk about why drawing standards exist in the first place. An architectural drawing isn't just a picture, it's a set of instructions. For it to communicate clearly, it needs to be readable, consistent, and organized. Without conventions, every line competes for attention. With them, the drawing develops a clear visual order, organized structure, and strong hierarchy. Conventions help someone understand what is being cut, what sits beyond, and what information supports the design. And that hierarchy generally works in 3 levels. Cut elements define the primary spatial structure. These are the walls and other elements the plan cuts through, so they read the heaviest. Projected elements show the information visible beyond the cut. They're lighter, adding depth and context without competing with the primary structure. And supporting graphics like dimensions, notes, hatches, and overhead lines read lightest, so they clarify the drawing without overpowering it. As you begin adding doors, fixtures, furniture, annotations, and other information, each element should continue to follow that hierarchy. So why begin with a sketch? It can be tempting to open Rhino and start making geometry right away. But when software leads the process, it can encourage you to commit too early or let the available tools shape your decisions. Sketching first creates space to explore. You can test design ideas, compare options, and establish the design intent before refining it digitally. Now, let's bring that sketch into Rhino, scale it to the real world, and translate it into a clear architectural drawing. Follow along and pause whenever you need to. Before we import the sketch, download and open the Rhino Studio Series template using the link in the description. We've included both imperial and metric versions, so choose the one that matches the units you'll be working with. The template gives you a starting layer structure, base symbols, line types, and project standards that we'll continue using throughout the series. I'm going to hide these for now since we don't need them. But before moving on, let's quickly look at the file setup. In Document Properties, you can review and adjust your grid settings, including the line count, spacing between major and minor grid lines, and snap spacing. Under Units, you can confirm your model units and tolerance settings. These can all be customized for different projects, but the template is already set up for the scale we'll be working at throughout the series. Run the picture command and select your scanned or photographed sketch. Rhino places the image as a flat object inside the viewport. Drop it roughly into position for now. We'll resize it accurately in the next step. Place the image on the reference layer so it stays separate from the line work we're about to create. Now here's the step that gives the sketch real meaning. Find one measurement you know, a wall length, a doorway, or another dimension you can confidently use as a reference. If you need help choosing a reference measurement, here's a quick guide to typical architectural dimensions, shown in both imperial and metric. Use these as general references, then adjust them to match your project and local standards. Run scale and select the image. Choose a base point, and then select a second reference point so the distance between these 2 points represents a measurement you know. Type the correct real-world distance and press enter. Scale adjusts the entire image proportionally, so the sketch grows or shrinks without becoming distorted. Before tracing, lower the image opacity so your new line work remains easy to see over the sketch. With the picture selected, open the Properties panel and go to the Material tab. Scroll down to Object Transparency, then adjust the value until the sketch remains visible without competing with the line work you'll draw over it. Then, lock the reference layer. This allows you to trace over the image without accidentally selecting or moving it. so every click lands on your new geometry instead of the picture. The layer standard structure is already included in the template, so rather than building it from scratch, let's take a quick tour of how it's organized. The main categories include reference, annotation, symbols, plan, elevation, and line types, with sublayers inside each category for different types of information. For this episode, we'll primarily work with the reference, annotations, and plan categories. Each row in the layers panel includes several settings: the layer name, the display color, which is the color you see while working in the Rhino viewport, the line type controls, and one of the most useful settings is the print width. By assigning print width directly to your layers, you can build the drawing hierarchy inside Rhino. You can also assign a separate print color, meaning the color you use to organize geometry on screen doesn't have to be the same color that appears in the final drawing. Here's a cheat sheet showing the layer name, print widths, and descriptions we're using throughout the series. Use it as a starting guide for your own layer standard. Now we begin translating the sketch into geometry. First, make sure a few object snaps are turned on. For now, enable end, mid, near, and perpendicular, so Rhino can help you connect accurately to endpoints, midpoints, nearby points, and perpendicular relationships. Next, make the plan wall layer active. There's more than one way to build the wall geometry, but I'll begin by drawing the exterior footprint as a rectangle. Then, I'll use offset to create an 8-inch wall thickness, which is a common starting dimension for exterior walls. From there, use line or polyline to trace the remaining wall lines you see in the sketch. Hold Shift when you need to keep a line straight, draw each wall from one edge to the other, and then offset the line to create its thickness. For the interior walls, I'll use a typical thickness of 6 inches. Once the main wall geometry is in place, run trim to remove the unnecessary portions and create clean wall connections. Now let's unhide the symbols and use copy to bring in the symbols provided in the template. Then move, rotate, or scale them as needed to match your plan. For example, for a door opening, draw 2 perpendicular lines to mark the edges of the opening. Then use trim to remove the wall segment between them. And then repeat the same process for the remaining doors and windows. Once all the openings are in place, temporarily turn off the door and window layers. Select the remaining wall line work and run join so the connected segments become closed curves. Finally, add room names and any other text information on the appropriate annotation text layer. Once the tracing is complete, turn off the reference layer and look at the drawing on its own. Does the geometry still communicate clearly without the sketch behind it? Check that the walls connect properly, the openings are readable, and each object has been placed on the correct layer. The sketch helped establish the design intent, but the new line work should now be able to stand on its own. Finally, turn on Print Display to see the line weights as they'll appear when the drawing is printed or exported. Cut elements should read heaviest, projected elements should sit slightly lighter, and supporting graphics should remain visible without competing with the main geometry. Let's pull everything together. Design intent begins by hand, so we imported the sketch as our drafting base. Scale gives a drawing real meaning, so we resized it using a known real-world dimension. And graphic hierarchy creates clarity, so we translated the sketch into organized layers with established print widths. For this episode's exercise, import and scale your own sketch, lower its opacity, lock it as a reference, and begin translating it into organized line work using the layer standard. In the next episode, we'll take this footprint and begin placing it within its larger context through the site and a roof plan. Download the template and full episode guide using the links in the description. Like this video and subscribe to follow along with the full Rhino Studio series. We'll see you in studio!